Hey guys, good morning. This is for my contemporary issues class. This is our very first standard. First one is 5 themes of geography. It's super duper easy. You've probably already learned this stuff and you didn't even know. But we're gonna go through it real quick. Very easy, and I think you'll basically already know this stuff. You may just not know the vocabulary terms that they use within the 5 themes. So first of all, what is geography? Well, geography is the study of the earth, as in like physical landscape, the map, all that stuff. Everything that's on earth is part of geography, and that does include humans. So we are a part of geography, our culture, when we move, the way we interact with the world and all that stuff. Like I said, the 5 themes are really simple. It's just a way to go through to understand the world just a little bit better. So let's jump right in because it's very easy and it's not gonna take too long. Sweet, let's do it. So first of all, the 5 themes are location, place, which sound the same thing, but they're a little bit different. I'll explain why later. Human environment and interaction, in other words, what's outside and what do we do with it. And movement, so when people move places, things change. And lastly, region, and we'll talk about what region actually means when we get there. All right, let's go. Remember, you can pause the video at any time if you need to look at any of this stuff. And email me if you got any questions. All right, let's do it. First thing, location. Very simple. Location is just where something is. That can be either on a map or like just describing it to someone, like this place is here, okay? So location, absolute location. Absolute location is like your address or like GPS coordinates. Like you've probably seen if you're using a GPS or your maps on your phone, it has the numbers that look like, it's like 46 with a little 0, and then it's got 12 with inches and feet and all that stuff. That's latitude and longitude, okay? We're not gonna go into all that because we don't have to, but absolute location just means like something specifically where it is. If you were in a satellite and had to see exactly where something is, that would be its absolute location, okay? So it can be the address, like I said, or the longitude and latitude numbers, all right? Cool. Relative location. Relative location is like how you describe where something is to somebody else. So for example, I put up here, Rockville High School, we're about 3 miles or 3.5 miles from the Publix up here on 99. We're also about 10 miles away from MTSU's campus in Murfreesboro, okay? Yeah, so that's basically it. You might say something like, for example, like I live at Westbury Farms Apartments. You could say something like Westbury Farms Apartments is 0.1 miles behind that same Publix on 99, okay? It's just describing where something is related to where something else is. So like Subway is 1,000 yards away from Rockville High School. That makes sense? If not, let me know, send me an email and I'll explain it a little bit better. Or you might even say Rockville Middle is 500 yards that way, okay? Relative location. So absolute location, address or GPS coordinates. Relative location, where something is in relation to something else, okay? I am 3 feet away from the board. That's simple. Cool, moving. Place. Place is not just location, because location means where something is. Place is like the description of the place. Like, so like this room has yellow walls. That would be a physical feature. There are flags in the room. That's another physical feature. Okay, so physical features, physical characteristics is the landscape. So are there mountains there? Are there rivers there? Are there forests there? That sort of thing. Beaches, that sort of thing, okay? Human characteristics are like the culture. What kind of religions do people practice there? What kind of jobs do people do? What are foods that people eat? What's the language? That sort of thing. So for an example, I broke it down for Murfreesboro. It says Murfreesboro would be a mostly English speaking. I know we have areas that have larger different populations of people who speak different languages. However, overall Murfreesboro, mostly English speaking suburban town with a variety of restaurants. We got a lot of different restaurants. That's part of our culture. And a large number of Christian churches. If you drive around Murfreesboro, you can't drive 5 minutes without seeing a church, basically, okay? So physical characteristics, again, that's the landscape, the physical features, rivers, mountains, hills, anything like that. And then human characteristics, that's gonna be the culture aspect of the place, okay? Remember, if you got any questions, send me an email. Or you can Google this stuff, it's all very easy. Whoops, dropped my pen. All right, human environment and interaction. Okay, there are three parts of this, and this is actually super easy too. Basically, it's what's outside, what is the land like, what is the environment like, what's the climate like, and how do humans deal with that, and how do we work with it, okay? So there's three ways, and it's just basically vocabulary. Dependency, adaptation, and modification. Dependency, dependent, like we are dependent on something, okay? This is the very easy one, the very basic one that you've learned since you started learning social studies. Basically, any large city, and really basically anywhere where people are living, there's usually a water source, okay? That's the biggest one. Humans are dependent on our environment in some way, and humans have to have water to survive, so we usually settle near water, right? Okay, so think about Murfreesboro. We have the Stones River running right through the middle of town. Nashville, Cumberland River running right through the middle of town. Memphis, Mississippi River running right beside the town, okay? So usually it's water. However, you might have a town spring up around like a coal mine, or you might have a town spring up where they have something like natural gas underground, where they're drilling for that. You might have a logging town where they have a lot of forest around there and they depend on the trees for their livelihood, okay? So human dependency, it means you're dependent on something in that environment. Usually it's going to be water, but it could be something like trees or a mine of some sort, or oil, something like that, okay? It's how humans depend on that environment to live there. All right, next thing, adaptation, adapt. We change our behavior based on what the environment is like, okay? So we do different things based on what it's like outside. So for example, if it's cold outside, humans are probably gonna wear bigger coats. Notice it says they might wear fur or wool. So we're talking like in ancient history and stuff, people adapted to their environment by killing animals and wearing their skin, okay? Now for a hot environment, like for example, ancient Egypt, those people wore a lot of cotton, light cotton material, because it's a lot cooler, okay? So how do we adapt to our environment? Air conditioning is another example. It's hot outside, so we've got the air on, that sort of thing. I'm adapting to this inside environment because it's cool in here, so I put my flannel shirt on. So does that make sense? How you change your behavior based on your environment, okay? And last thing, and also so easy, modification. We change our environment based on what we need. So the biggest example I can think of is humans travel from place to place and we want to do it quickly now. So we built all these concrete roads, parking lots, things like that. Just driving to Rockville, you'll see humans are changing our environment constantly. They're building neighborhoods right over here, and they're tearing up a lot of nice nature and farmland. Kind of makes me sad personally, but that's it is what it is. Another example of how we've modified our environment in Murfreesboro. If you've been in North Murfreesboro and you've seen the landfill, it's like they basically built a mountain and trash is underneath. So that's the way we've modified our environment. Anything you build, anything you change about the outside, that's a human modification to your environment. So that's how we interact, okay? So human environment interaction, we depend on our environment, natural resources, we adapt to our environment to make ourselves feel better or have to deal with whatever climate or whatever we're dealing with, and modification is how we change our environment, all right? So we build stuff. Cool, moving. Movement, when people move somewhere, the culture there changes. So I like to think of it like, so there's a lot of good examples, and I teach history. So westward expansion. Before white settlers moved west across the Mississippi, it was all Native American open lands out west, but then white settlers moved out there, completely changed the culture. First of all, they kicked the natives off their land, fought them, killed them, that sort of thing, and they brought their ways to those areas. Same thing, Great Migration in U.S. history. That was when African Americans living in the South during the Jim Crow era moved to the North, and they settled in cities looking for jobs. And the culture of those cities changed because African Americans brought their culture with them from the South to the North. And same thing, Europe is changing right now because of the Middle East and specifically Syria. A lot of people are moving out of Syria and a lot of people are moving out of the Middle East and they're moving into Europe. And so Europe's culture is changing. There's going to be a lot more Arabic influence there, okay? So movement just means, it's just like the different groups of people that come to a place and kind of change that culture, all right? Cool, all right, very good. And culture changes can be like things like they might bring a restaurant to your town. They might bring you might have a new type of church that pops up for a different religion, that sort of thing. So it's just the culture changes within your town that weren't there before because people have moved there. All right, remember, if you got questions, email me or Google it, okay? Cool. Region, and I think this might be our last one. So region is really, really easy. Region just means like, where is it, okay? But it's a little different than location because it's not specific, so it's like broad, okay? So formal regions, there are three types of regions: formal, functional, and vernacular. It's really easy. It sounds complicated, it's really easy. Formal regions are like states, cities, countries. You can find them on a map and they have a certain shape. You know exactly where the boundaries are. So examples would be like the United States, Tennessee, Murfreesboro's city limits, Nashville's city limits, that sort of thing. Rutherford County, you can see exactly on a map where the boundaries are. And like when you're out driving and you cross over the county line, it'll say, oh, you've entered a new county. Oh, you've entered a new state, that sort of thing, okay? Functional region. Now this is a little different, but it's really, really easy. A functional region, all it is like something like a neighborhood. So the way I think of it is function. Think of like a pizza place. A pizza place, say up here, say Domino's on Warrior Drive, that area. They're not going to deliver all over Murfreesboro. They have a certain area where they function, where they deliver, and it's basically kind of like the Casem Lane neighborhood area. That's kind of their area, and maybe like a little bit of Church Street area, okay? So the way I broke it down for Murfreesboro, just think of like the different neighborhoods in Murfreesboro. If you've lived here a while, you know like the Blackman area, you know like Casem Lane area, you know like South Church Street, you know like Siegel area, Old Fort / Memorial area, you know, Thompson Lane, those kind of places. So a functional region is just like kind of like a neighborhood, kind of just one simple area and its surroundings. So for example, like if you meet somebody new in Murfreesboro and they're like, hey, what part of Murfreesboro do you live in? You're like, oh, I live in the Casem Lane area. And you're like, where do you live? They're like, oh, I live on the north side of town, like Siegel area. That's a little more, it kind of sounds tricky, but it's not. It just means like a neighborhood. A functional region is just like a neighborhood, okay? Cool. Remember, email me if you got questions. Lastly, and this is the most broad or abstract one, vernacular regions. A vernacular region is just an area where the culture is kind of the same. So the biggest example that keeps popping up is the South, the American South. So states like Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Louisiana, Kentucky, all these areas, it's areas that kind of have a similar culture, and they just get thrown all together as in the South, okay? Another big example is the Middle East, you know, the Arabic world, where, you know, it's a common religion, Islam, common language is usually Arabic, and common culture, you know, it's kind of like a similar dress across the region, and the dress goes back to human environment and interaction. They dress that way because it's really hot there, so they wear these clothes where, you know, you can keep cool in the heat. The Midwest, that's the area of Chicago, that sort of area. The land is all pretty flat. They do a lot of farming in Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, all that area. That's the Midwest. Then you can even like think of like the West, and you have an image of the West where you got deserts, hot areas, things like that, okay? So, very cool. All right. So region, formal, functional, and vernacular, all right? Rock and roll. All right, we're gonna answer these questions real quick. And yeah, we rocked and rolled through that. We got through it real quick, and so here we go. The difference between absolute and relative location. Absolute location is something like an address or GPS coordinates. Okay, so like it's exactly where something is. Absolutely right here. Relative is where something is based on where something else is. Rockville High School is 500 yards from Rockville Middle School. Rockville High School is probably a mile from Rockville Elementary. Rockville High School is 8 miles from Eagleville High School. Rockville High School is 5 miles from Riverdale. That makes sense? So, where something is based on another place. Okay? Cool. Physical characteristics. What are examples of physical characteristics of a place? Landforms. Those are mountains, rivers. Now I was going to put etc. You're a junior or senior, hopefully you know what landforms are by now. But if not, landforms are things like mountains, hills, rivers, beaches, anything that's out there in the physical environment, okay? Human characteristics, this is gonna be culture. So what are your jobs? Language, religion, etc. Basically anything humans do, kind of music we listen to, what are our habits, that sort of thing, what are our customs, okay? How do humans interact with their environment, including dependency? That's what we need. So things like water, we're dependent on water, you have to have water to live. So you live in an environment where the water is nearby, okay? Adaptation, how we deal with environment. So if it's cold, like say you live in Alaska, you're gonna wear a jacket more often than someone who lives in Hawaii because it's colder in Alaska than Hawaii, okay? Just like in Hawaii, they're gonna wear shorts more often than people in Alaska, right? That's simple. And modification, how we change the environment. And I apologize if my handwriting is bad. Email me if you can't read it, or you can just listen. How we change the environment, that's a W. How we change the environment. Woo, things are weird. There we go. So dependency is what we need from the environment. Adaptation, how we deal with the environment. And modification, how we change the environment. All right, going back to number 2, physical characteristics are landforms. Human characteristics is culture. Absolute location is your address or GPS coordinates. If you were in a satellite, how would you find a place? And relative location, where something is based on where something else is. Okay? Pause if you need to. You'll see these questions again or something similar, so make sure you know them. Let's go. Last 2 here, and then I'll show you what your assignment is. What happens as a result of large-scale human movement? When humans move from one place, a certain country or wherever, to another country, state, wherever, what do they bring with them? They bring with them goods, ideas, and culture, okay? So cultural change. Cultural change. It's really that easy, cultural change, okay? All right, formal, functional, and vernacular reason. I'm gonna write it down here. Formal. So these have boundaries. Formal has boundaries. So this is like a country. It could even be a continent, state, or a county. Okay? Functional. Remember, what did I tell you about functional? So smaller, it breaks it down just a little bit. It's like a neighborhood, okay? So like going back to the pizza place thing, a pizza place on this side of town is not going to deliver all the way to like North Murfreesboro. So functional, the pizza place functions in this area, this neighborhood. It's a functional region of Murfreesboro. Okay, and vernacular. So this is a large area that has a similar culture. A similar culture. So things like the South, you know, we have a similar climate all over the South. The South is hot, and there's a lot of rural areas, farming. Everybody has the Southern accent, or a lot of people have the Southern accent. Middle East, you know, Arabic culture, Islam's main religion, things like that. So formal has boundaries, functional is like a neighborhood, and vernacular is an area that kind of exists like in your mind. Like you think of the South and you think of Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, that sort of thing. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. I'm gonna leave this up just for a moment, and I'm gonna pull up your assignment that I want you to do. It's very easy, and I think you'll like it, or I hope you'll like it. So let me pull this up. Here it is. Ta-da! Pause if you need it. Email me if you have questions, and let's go through this. So what I want you to do, I'm going to put this on my website. This is due 8/21/2020, so Friday, August 21st. First of all, what's your name? I just need that because it doesn't tell me your name if I don't put that on there. What I want you to do, I want you to choose a city, and I want you to break that city down so you can be anywhere in the world, somewhere where you would like to visit. I'm going to let you choose. I'm not going to assign it to you. You can choose Murfreesboro or Nashville if you want, but I mean, try to think of something. I want you to learn something about a place. So, like if you've always wanted to go to Japan, you might choose Tokyo. If you've always wanted to go to Australia, you might choose Sydney. Let's see, if you always wanted to go to Paris, France, choose Paris. London, maybe New York City, Las Vegas, Los Angeles. I know a lot of kids want to talk about wanting to go to California. So yeah, so choose a city you'd like to visit. And you're going to use the internet to find this stuff. You're going to find the absolute location of that city. You can do that. You can Google absolute location of New York City, absolute location of London, absolute location of Murfreesboro, that sort of thing. Okay, you can Google all this stuff and you'll find it. If you can't, let me know and I'll help you out. Number 4, the relative location. So for example, if you choose Nashville, you might say Nashville is 35 miles from Murfreesboro. Nashville is like 30 miles from the border of Kentucky, something like that, okay? I don't know that exact number, so don't quote me on that. But that sort of thing. My city is however many miles from this city, and you'll have to choose the other place too, okay? Okay. Number 5, what are some physical characteristics of the city? What are the landforms there, okay? What are some human characteristics? What's the culture like there? And if you choose a big city, your answer is going to be something to do with multicultural. But I want you to include examples. Tell me how it's multicultural. What cultures are there? Okay. What are the big influences? What are the people like there? Number 7, how are humans dependent on the environment? Most of the cities you choose are going to be either on the coast or located on a large river. So I want to know about that. What are the waterways? What are the mountains? What do people do in relation to the environment there? How have humans adapted to the environment? You'll need to know about the climate. Is it hot or cold there? What do people do based on their environment there, okay? Number 9, how have humans modified the environment in this city? If you choose a big city, obviously they're gonna be building big, tall skyscrapers, things like that. So make sure just to talk about that. There are many buildings. There are thousands of miles of roads in and out of the city. There are big bridges, that sort of thing. That's how you modify the environment. Make sure to tell me where your city is, as in what country is it a part of, what continent is it on, that sort of thing, okay? This is gonna be a good one. In a way, you'll find out more about your city. What functional regions, what are the neighborhoods in your city, okay? So Nashville, you got Donaldson, you got West Nashville, you got downtown, all that sort of thing. What vernacular region? This might be a little more tricky. If you don't know, you can Google it or you can email me and I can help you out. What vernacular region is your city a part of? And then number 13, just for me to know, and it's just kind of for fun, but please do it. Number 13, why do you want to go there? What draws you to the city? What's cool about the city? That sort of thing. So again, this assignment is due Friday, August 21st. And if you have any questions, let me know. I know we went fast through that. I'm gonna throw all this stuff up on my website so you can look at it again, and I'll put the notes up there too. So hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you got any questions, and live your life and enjoy. See ya.